Today on Healing Works, my guest is Ishtar, a singer, songwriter, dancer, and expert in goddess spirituality. And we're going to be talking about her music, her life, and the inspiration of the goddess, among other things. So stay tuned. And you gave a talk at Wilmington College, was the talk on goddess spirituality?
It was partly to do with goddess spirituality. It was putting it within the context of economic systems. Really, what I was sort of getting across was that most of human existence is actually being peaceful and feminine and matrifocal. So I was kind of looking at early spiritualities and pointing out to people that they were feminine, cooperative, and noticing that people were probably a lot healthier, families were extended, there wasn't probably the same dysfunctionality as perhaps there is. Capitalism generates certain problems connected with competitiveness. So I was kind of looking at that and showing how the goddess is symbolic of cooperative living and peaceful existence, really.
The premise that you're talking about is that early civilizations had cooperative civilizations, and it's archaeological evidence and historical evidence.
Yes,
yeah, Gimbutas, right. Maria Gimbutas, who is one of our heroines, right?
Yes.
She reinterpreted what a lot of the archaeological evidence found on, I think on Crete was one of the main ones.
Well,
right?
I've been to Crete.
You have?
And I've looked at all the stuff in Knossos, the Minoan society.
Yeah.
It's a society of beautiful people, very feminine, very spiritual. People had time to take opium and relax. They were so organised and go into metaphysical states and contact, the divine creators. And I think men and women in Crete have beautiful relationships with each other. And this
today?
Is like, well, no, not today. In the Minoan culture, which obviously was like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But they were extremely civilized people. They're spiritual.
Isn't it the Minoan culture? The archaeological evidence found goddess statues in all of the homes.
That's correct.
And it was interpreted, of course, by male archaeologists.
Yeah, as pornography and bullshit like that. They always have to, it's so good that there are so many women anthropologists and archaeologists who are reinterpreting these things in a much more constructive and I think scientific way. Men have said these. It really upsets me to think that these things that to me are obviously spiritual icons, that male archaeologists are perceiving them as pornographic masturbation objects, which isn't really how I see it, and how a lot of other female and some male progressive male archaeologists and anthropologists see these things.
Right. The interpretation, of course, as we know, is so much has to do with the thinking and the perception of the person that does the interpretation, and without a woman there to understand.
And all these people always say, oh, we're scientific, and they feel that their observations are objective and don't acknowledge. I always acknowledge my framework. I'm coming from a feminist, goddess spiritual influence, the way I perceive things. But
sure,
I think a lot of middle-class white male types, don't seem to acknowledge their framework.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is the way it is, without really recognising that there is no real, in social science, there's no real objectivity. It's purely how one sees it.
There's no objective truth.
No.
At all.
No.
And, of course, Einstein showed that...
Can I just say, it's been absolutely beautiful to meet you. I think you're an amazing lady, and I just feel totally at ease with this conversation.
That's
It's
wonderful. I paid her to
mind-blowing.
say that, everyone. No. Thank you, Ishtar. And actually, the feeling is returned.
Oh.
One thing that I was going to say is that it's been shown through quantum physics and Einstein's
Yes.
experiments that the observation of something actually changes
Totally,
it.
totally. Well, that
If
totally.
something's observed, it's one thing, and if it's not observed, it's another thing.
But that's how magic works, isn't it? As
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
by sympathetic magic, by getting, and that's another thing. What is perceived as the work of the devil and
Yeah.
ridiculous things like that.
Well, the devil is a creation of Christianity.
Christianity,
Sure.
exactly.
The horned goddess of the European pagans was turned
Yeah.
into the devil. I mean, when you look at
Yeah,
the way the devil
that's
looks.
right.
Yeah. So the point being that feminism brings an entire different view of
Okay.
the world, right?
Yes, very. Yeah. Oh,
And
but it's not
understand-
just about being. For me, feminism isn't just about women. It's about animals. It's about nature, and it's about men as well. Because I think men are quite limited in patriarchy. I think the repertoire of the things they're allowed, it's approved of. In full people.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So I think actually feminist ideas are advantage for everyone.
Yeah. Thomas Berry actually said that if the world was going to be saved, that it was going to be saved by ecofeminism.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that's where the goddess spirituality comes in, because that
Exactly.
spirituality is relevant for that. The world is being attacked by male ideas, male
Yeah.
competition, and it needs...
Don't you think we should say that it's not men per se,
No,
each individual
exactly.
man. It's
Yeah, 'cause
a
some men-
patriarchal type
patriarchal,
of thinking
yes.
that women have as well.
That some women have, yeah. Totally. Margaret Thatcher in Britain was
hello.
one hideous, horrible, very male.
Oh,
you know,
God
type
love
of-
her.
Well,
She
I
enjoyed-
don't. God can't. But she didn't make
She and
life
Bush
easy.
one were such good friends.
They're
And Reagan.
so alike, so much in common.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So the idea is that the patriarchal thinking, which a lot of women have as well, and we couldn't have
yes,
gotten here
that's
without
right, yeah.
the cooperation of half of the human race,
That's right.
needs to be. There's a lot of good things, okay, but enough already.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah, yeah.
progress, etc.,
Of
and
course,
whatever.
yeah.
A lot of good things, but some of it's too much, and we're destroying ourselves as a result of these ideas. So
Ultimately,
we
it's
need to-
masochism, isn't it? It's actually masochism.
Yeah, I think
Because,
it's a form.
because
absolutely.
we
I
are
think it's a
the
form.
world and the world is us, and
Yeah.
the illusion is that we're separate from nature. But how can we be
or from
separate?
each other.
And from each other.
Yeah.
We're not. That is the illusion. And that's why it is indeed. I think the American Indians have a saying, which I learned from Wayne Dyer, was no tree would be foolish enough to have branches that fight with each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I find that a very elegant way to explain that, really.
Right, exactly. We are all connected. We're all connected through biology and through our spirituality.
Yes.
We're connected and actually it's all one thing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like us to try to separate out things to help understand.
Yeah. But
But
I
to-
believe that ancient people didn't have that dualistic perception now.
Yeah.
In every single culture, there is the myth of the fall of humanity.
Yeah.
And I interpret that as the transition from matriarchal culture to patriarchal culture.
Yeah.
So that matriarchal culture was a sense of holism, and then the sense of dualism came into being.
Yeah.
And then with it, the subsequent ideas regarding separation from each other. The fact that we're having this conversation now in the Midwest in America is very hopeful to me, though, that this is going on. You know, this movement and these ideologies are growing.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we'll reach a critical mass. And I am very hopeful for the future, you know.
The 100th monkey syndrome.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But my thing of expressing this on a personal level is through my work as a dancer. I do Arabic dance and gypsy dance, and with my songs as well, because I think in the past, divinity and spiritual feelings were really associated. That's where dance comes from, actually, is from worshipping the goddess, physical movement.
Yeah.
People are, you know, it's like Cartesian dualism, where the mind is always superior and disconnected from the body. But as a dancer, you know that the mind and the soul and the body work in unison.
Yeah.
And are expressed as a holistic thing through physical movement. But also with dance, the type of dance I do emulates the movement of universes, the movement of molecules, the patterns in nature. And when you actually move like that and you discipline your body to get into those shapes, you get a very deep understanding of that type of spirituality that all our ancestors have been engaged with.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people may condemn these like ideas of animism and so on as childish and overtly sexual or whatever, but we all come from that.
Yeah, yes.
And we shouldn't deny, you know, our roots.
Yeah, that's exactly the point.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. If you've just joined us, listeners, we're going to be playing some of her music. She's on a tour of the United States and has a gig. Right now, it's www.ishtar.tv.